Fortnite Chapter 3 is releasing next month, and because Epic Games are starting from the ground up, I wanted to look back at things that secretly got removed this chapter in case, well, you know, we don't see them again. And so let's kick it off with one thing that is officially shutting down for good and will never return. Of course, I'm talking about Fortnite China. This is probably one of the biggest pieces of Fortnite news since Fortnite got banned from the App Store. And a shocking twist, it turns out that Fortnite China is actually going to be deleted from the internet in just 2 weeks. Yeah, November 15th, Epic Games is shutting down China for good and deleting everyone's accounts. That means all their hard work, levels, skins, and V-Bucks will just be gone forever. There are even some petitions out there of players begging for Epic to let them transfer their accounts to the regular version of Fortnite, but it isn't looking great for those guys. So why is China even getting deleted? Well, some people think it's because of new gaming laws, and others think it's because Epic just weren't really making money on it. I mean, yeah, it's a free-to-play game with 0 microtransactions, so it's no surprise they're removing it. But with that news aside, Chapter 2 has had a lot more secretly removed items, like the SYMBIOTE mythics. Alright, this season we haven't had an incredible amount of unique or wacky items, but at the start we had 2 SYMBIOTE mythics. They were really fun and made for some interesting plays, but we were all disappointed when Fortnite announced they'd be leaving the game on October 18th. Well, that was cool and all, but just a few days before the 18th arrived, these SYMBIOTE mythics were nowhere to be found. No one knew what happened. Well, it turned out that Epic secretly removed them because of an overpowered glitch. Instead of fixing it, they just deleted them from the game. Still not as weird though as the machine pistol. Alright, probably one of the most confusing items in Fortnite history has been the machine pistol. This thing was all over the place in Chapter 1 and even was accidentally added to the game a few times in Season X. Well, we didn't hear much about it until Chapter 2 came around, and the machine pistol appeared on the daily challenge board in Season 2. But then they switched it out with the regular SMG out of nowhere, and like nobody noticed. It's like Epic pretended this gun simply never existed. And well, we haven't heard anything from it since. Fair enough though, we're more bummed out about the removal of the mythic mushroom. All the way back in Chapter 2 Season 3, a mysterious item appeared that barely anyone knew about. It was the mythic golden mushroom. This thing was added in complete secret. Epic didn't put it in the patch notes or anything. It also had a crazy spawn rate of like 1 in 10,000, so even if you tried your hardest to get it, it was entirely luck. If you did somehow beat the 0.01% odds of finding this thing, you'd be rewarded with an item that healed 100 shield in a second. And if this thing wasn't as rare, it would be the most OP item in the entire game. But because it was so hard to get, nobody even noticed when Epic secretly removed the mushroom in Season 4. And we're all still sad about the Ghost and Shadow henchmen. When you go from season to season, there isn't much that sticks around. Most things are vaulted and replaced with new items. But there are 2 guys who stuck around for like 5 seasons straight, and that's the Lonely Henchmen. Throughout Season 4, they traveled all over the island. They were becoming buddies, going on vacation together. It was so awesome to follow them. And then they finally settled down near Camp Cod waiting for Galactus to arrive. And then in Season 5, they were nowhere to be found. Well, that's unless you went up to an IO elevator in which you had a low chance of actually spotting them. Flash forward to Season 7, we have no idea what happened to them, but then during Operation Skyfire, we noticed that they had somehow gotten themselves trapped inside of the mothership. And well, we all know what happened to that thing. Maybe the henchmen are now in the ocean, or maybe we'll just never see them again, but it looks like they have been vaulted for good. At least for now. And the same can be said for cop cars. So last year, Epic Games removed police cars from Fortnite for very understandable reasons. They did it without telling anyone, and only eagle-eyed fans noticed. They even went as far as to remove it from creative. If you tried to place a cop car at the time, it would place a default car instead, and eventually, they just straight up deleted it. To this day, it still hasn't returned, and they might never come back. There was even a drivable police car in the works at some point, but I bet plans for that are scrapped as well. Another thing secretly removed is the fire trap. I mean, barely anyone remembers this item. It was a trap back in Season 4, and yet almost no one even remembers that it was in the game. I mean, I sure didn't. It was basically a trap that just set fire to things, and if you stood on it, it would set everything in the area alight. It seemed cool too, but Epic removed this thing so quickly that it's almost like it was never in the game to begin with. Unlike this next item, because everyone remembers the mythic Primal shotgun. All the way back in Season 6, there was one thing on everyone's minds. Why is the Primal shotgun so overpowered? And then Epic made it even worse by adding a mythic version of the gun to the Spire Assassin. I mean, people freaked out over this one, so Epic panicked and secretly placed it with a mythic recycler in the next update. And then they just pretended it never happened. I mean, I'm not surprised though, this gun was so overpowered, it was ridiculous. But I really think you should hear about the secret POI on the mountain. One of the best places to drop in Season 5 was an unmarked POI over in the mountain. It was a secret Ghost Headquarters POI which was eventually taken over by Shadow, and it was one of the only things fully remaining from the Ghost v Shadow era. But this place had a ton of chests, a whole vent system, and it was easy to find from anywhere on the map. But unfortunately, Epic secretly removed this thing when they dropped the New Kids Cantina POI, and it replaced the Shadow Headquarters without anyone realizing. Since then, it's been permanently vaulted from the island, and I kinda miss it. Just like I also miss itemized upgrade benches. Right now, the only way to upgrade your weapons is through an NPC or finding an upgrade bench around the map. But a couple seasons ago, it wasn't always this expensive just to upgrade your items. Before, we had itemized benches which you could literally pick up and take with you, and you could throw them wherever you wanted. But in Season 4, Epic secretly vaulted them and made us upgrade through NPCs instead. And for the rest of Chapter 2, we have been patiently waiting for them to return, but to this day, they still haven't come back. Maybe in Chapter 3 though. But something that really shocked us was when Epic vaulted sharks. Yeah, we've had a fair share of wildlife in Chapter 2, but one of the scariest and most useful of them were the sharks. These guys have been around the longest and also gave some insane loot if you killed the right one. However, this season, we were all used to sharks swimming around until a few weeks ago when Epic actually quietly removed sharks from the game entirely. We have no idea why they did this. They even have plans to allow sharks to drop pumpkin launchers, but they're not in the game. Very sad day for Top 5 gaming. But I was even more bummed when I heard about the MIDAS flopper. If you want something that was truly secretly removed, then we can't ignore the MIDAS flopper. This was one of the most infamous fish in Fortnite history. Everyone wanted to get their hands on this, but it was super rare. You only had a 1% chance of catching it, and you could only find it in a specific part of the map. But because it was so rare, when Epic actually removed the lake you could find it in, no one realized that the MIDAS flopper was also gone for good. Literally, it took weeks for anyone to realize that Epic had secretly removed this thing in Season 5. No idea why they didn't bring it back, but at least we know all about the group baller. We all love the ballers in Chapter 1, but the closest thing we got to them in this chapter was back in Season 4. There was a mythic GROOT item that was literally a baller. It was one of the coolest items of the season, but unfortunately, there was a huge bug with this thing that would send you flying across the entire map. I mean, it was so broken. Look, you can teleport literally anywhere. Instead of fixing it though, Epic decided to straight up press the delete button and has never returned since that day. But it looks like the community was even more surprised when they learned about the CREEPIN cardboard. Back in Season 2, one of the most fun and fresh items were the cardboard boxes. You could find them around the island and throw them down to hide in them. They were kind of like a reskinned Sneaky Snowman. I mean, they were awesome and also harmless. Well, unfortunately, even though people loved it, Epic went into Season 3 without them, and of course, without any patch notes, no one noticed when they were removed. The real fun item though was the flare gun. Okay, so back in Chapter 1, Epic revealed the flare gun during an animated short and eventually came into the game in Chapter 2 Season 3. It was one of the most useful items Fortnite has ever added. People used the flare gun everywhere they went. But like most of the items on this list, a single season later, Epic removed it without telling anyone. Still, as cool as this was, at least it lasted a whole season. I can't say the same for Bud the Mushroom. Back in 2020, a mysterious secret was added to the Fortnite island that almost no one knew about. In the last few weeks of Chapter 2 Season 2, there was a random talking mushroom over at Weeping Woods, and if you fed him wood and then danced with him, he would literally turn into a walking healing station. He'd follow you around and give you shield whenever you needed it, but the reason no one knew about him at the time was because he was only in the game for a single day. He was vaulted when Season 2 ended, and we never saw him again. Well, that is until Season 8, where he became a little Easter egg at Madcap's Mill. Even then, he's just furniture now. He doesn't actually heal you anymore. But even he wasn't as overpowered as the pay-to-win superhero skins. At the very start of this year, Epic dropped superhero skins that you could customize, but they didn't account for the fact that if you turn your skin all black or all white, it was literally pay to win. I mean, you were so hard to spot, especially on console with shadows. It was crazy, and it set the whole community into a frenzy. I mean, everyone was talking about this. Now, luckily, Epic swiftly fixed it by vaulting solid color superhero skins, but it was definitely a weird time to be a Fortnite player. But if we're going from something everyone hated to a beloved feature, then we have to go to vaults. Vaults were one of the best additions in Chapter 2. They were around in Season 2, Season 3, and then there were even some in the Marvel season as well. But for some reason, despite everyone loving these things, Epic decided to just get rid of them in Season 5. Like every single one of them. Well, the vaults that are still around today, completely empty and unusable. And somehow it's even sadder seeing these empty vaults and Epic just straight up deleting them. I mean, I hope they return in Chapter 3. And I really hope next season brings us 100% chest spawns. One of the weirdest things that Epic has ever removed was 100% chest spawn. For the last half of Chapter 2, you could land on a house and not even get a single chest. For years, Fortnite had these same locations for chests, and you knew you could drop anywhere safely, have a fair fight. Now, completely RNG. We have been waiting for the return of 100% chest spawn for what feels like an eternity, so maybe it'll return in Chapter 3. But honestly, there's a big chance it'll never come back, which is a pretty scary thought. And finally, we have the most out-of-nowhere removal in all of Chapter 2, and that is CHOPPAS. For a majority of the chapter, CHOPPAS were the go-to vehicle. I mean, yeah, boats were cool, but CHOPPAS could get you anywhere you wanted and were great at at doing so. They were used by pretty much everyone, even pros love them, which is why we were all surprised when one day we woke up and they just weren't there. Kinda like they vanished overnight, and eventually Epic replaced them with the Joyride update and stuff, but it's like we never even got to say goodbye. They've even added helipads a few wise, but no choppas? And if that wasn't weird enough, a few seasons ago, Epic were working on an RPG that could lock onto helicopters, so why did they vault them? No idea, it'll forever be a mystery, but that is pretty much everything that was quietly removed in Chapter 2. Thanks so much for watching, it's been Tommy, keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.